It's the final race of 1994. Everything is on the line. You're Michael Schumacher. That's Michael bloody Schumacher. And you found yourself one tiny point ahead of Damon Hill. Your Benetton is already wounded after kissing the wall, and then you see it. Hill's Williams is making a dive for the inside. What do you do next? Well, you just need to read the manual. Japan, 1989. Ayrton Senna goes for this absolutely desperate pass on Alain Prost at the chicane. And Prost, man, he doesn't even flinch, just turns his car straight into Senna like he's slamming the door on some random guy who just crashed his wedding.
What an idiot!
Championship over. Fast forward 1 year, same track. On the first corner, Prost gets ahead, and then Senna just launches his McLaren like a heat-seeking missile with a personal vendetta. Bang! Both cars go flying into the gravel trap. Senna grabs the championship while the cars are still smoking in the dirt. It turns out this is how you become a world champion. Some would say this is cheating. You see, scoring points and seeing that checkered flag is usually how this rodeo goes. But why bother battling for all those laps when you can end it all with one perfect crash? So when you see Hill's Williams sneaking up the inside like a seagull trying to steal your fries, you already know what to do next. Crash! But was Schumacher really cheating? To understand that, we've got to go back to January 3rd, 1969, West Germany. Just 6 months before the moon landing, Rolf Schumacher was starting his own little rocket program, a baby boy named Michael. In this tiny working-class home, nobody had a clue this kid would completely rewrite racing history. Now, bricklayers don't exactly pull in Ferrari money, but the man had mechanical creativity pumping through his veins. When Michael turned 4, Rolf looked at a regular pedal kart and thought, this thing needs way more power. So what does he do? Straps on a diesel engine, basically turning a toy into a toddler missile. Michael's first driving experience with it? Straight into a lamppost, like Mr. Bean attempting parallel parking, but with more natural talent and less destroyed storefronts. The kid couldn't even reach the pedals properly, but was already showing that signature Schumacher aggression. Most parents would have sold that kart faster than teams dump a struggling driver. Not Rolf. The guy juggled 2 jobs while building Michael's first real kart from whatever parts he could find. The payoff? 6-year-old Michael winning his first club championship, while barely tall enough to see over the steering wheel. Then when he was 11, Michael saw this young Brazilian driver called Ayrton Senna absolutely crushing it at the World Karting Championship in Belgium. While other kids had posters of rock stars, Michael was burning racing lines and breaking points into his brain. Trouble is, German rules said no karting licenses until age 14. The Schumacher's solution? Luxembourg, here we come. Michael grabbed his license at 12, came back home, and absolutely dominated the German Junior Kart Championship. When Germany finally gave him a license, it felt more like they were waving a white flag than giving permission. While other teenagers were discovering Ertingers and bad decisions, Michael was elbow deep in Volkswagen engines as an apprentice mechanic. By 17, Michael was already climbing the motorsport ladder faster than his rivals could spell Schumacher in 1984 and 1985. He absolutely steamrolled the German Junior Karting Championship, back-to-back titles without breaking a sweat. He was a machine. Then 1987 rolls around, and Michael goes full trophy collector. German karting champion? Check. European karting champion? Double check. The karting world was too small for him now. At 19, he jumped into Formula 3, and by 1990, he had the German F3 championship in his pocket, catching Mercedes' attention faster than, well, Class 9. They scooped him into the junior racing program, basically putting a future F1 champion stamp on his forehead. Then the fairy tale. In 1991, the Jordan F1 team needed a driver after Bertrand Gachot got himself thrown in prison. Mercedes slipped Jordan 150,000 big ones to give their boy a shot. Michael qualified 7th in a car he had barely touched, on a track he'd never even raced. It was like seeing living dinosaurs for the first time. F1 team bosses were looking at each other like, did we just witness the birth of a monster? Spoiler alert, they absolutely did. Yeah, his debut lasted about as long as last night. Half a lap before his clutch exploded, but it didn't matter. Coming out of nowhere, upstaging seasoned F1 drivers, having never driven one, he'd turned heads, especially bigwigs at Benetton. During that race weekend, Benetton had already hatched a plan to snatch him from Jordan. Through some legal wizardry and clever scrabbling, Schumacher was gone before his Jordan seat was even cold. Who would have thought changing the to in legal speak would make such a difference? That's why lawyers make the big bucks. Yeah, Jordan tried to fight it in court, but lost. It's like your slightly better looking best friend snatching your childhood sweetheart right from under your nose, with that one-liner he uses on all the girls. How cute are you? Reigning champ and F1 legend Ayrton Senna knew exactly what was coming. Probably saw some of himself in the guy. He warned friends that Schumacher was the next big threat, calling him way ahead of the other drivers. Not bad, eh? Kinda like Mozart calling you musically gifted. In 1992, Schumacher was nipping at Senna's heels at Magny-Cours and crashed into him on the hairpin on the first lap, wiping Senna out of the race. Most drivers would give the cold shoulder for months, but Senna, he marches right up to Schumacher before the restart, face to face, and drops this gem.
Hey, you fuck it up, it's fine, I come and talk to you, right?
The dude put him in his place like a junkyard dog.
Dare you come into this office and bark at me like some little junkyard dog?
At Spa, Belgium, the rest of the world got to see what Senna had already known. Our first taste of pure Schumacher magic. Victory in conditions wetter than a British picnic. Rain pouring down, zero visibility. Other drivers tiptoeing around, and Michael carving through it like he had special tyres nobody else got. Then, in 1993, Schumacher finished ahead of Ayrton Senna by 3 points, grabbing 4th overall. Talk about making a statement. As 1994 approached, Williams seemed unbeatable, with Senna joining after they'd dominated with Mansell and Prost. But F1 threw in a massive curveball, banning active suspension, traction control and ABS. For Williams, their sophisticated car suddenly became a wild animal without its electronic leash. For Schumacher and Benetton, it was opportunity knocking with brass knuckles. The 1994 season wasn't going to be about who had the best technology anymore. It would come down to which driver could tame those machines, which team could push closest to the edge without falling over, and who was willing to risk absolutely everything for victory. But nobody could have predicted the season would end with one of the most controversial championships in F1 history. That 1994 season roared to life, with Schumacher absolutely demolishing the field in Brazil. Senna grabbed pole position at his home track, showing that raw Williams speed, but race day? Totally different story. Michael just swaggered past during the pit stop on lap 21, built his comfy lead, and basically watched through his mirrors as Senna spun out on lap 56 while desperately trying to catch him. While Williams was busy scratching their heads, Michael was probably just picking which champagne to spray. At the Pacific Grand Prix in Japan, it was straight up deja vu. Senna on pole, but when those lights went out, Michael pounced immediately while Senna got tangled up with Hakkinen and Larini in a first lap mess. Game over, 3 cars out, and Michael cruising to another victory with the casual ease of someone taking a Sunday drive to get milk. The scoreboard after 2 races, Michael 20 points, Senna big fat 0. This wasn't how the script was supposed to go. Senna, the absolute maestro, and the supposedly superior Williams, getting schooled by this young German upstart? Something felt weird, and there were whispers about Benetton's car having some extra electronic assistance that was supposedly banned. Then came Imola, a weekend that started with tension, and ended with Formula One's soul ripped wide open. In qualifying, Roland Ratzenberger loses his front wing at 190 miles per hour, crashes into concrete. The Austrian rookie doesn't make it. And on race day, Senna, determined to fight back against Michael's early season dominance, takes the lead. Lap 7, Tamburello corner. He goes straight into a concrete wall at 190 miles per hour. There's no surviving that. 2 horrific deaths in a single race weekend. Michael, who'd idolized Senna as a kid, watching karting in Belgium, thought about walking away from the sport altogether, but Formula One kept moving forward because racing never stops. The circus packs up, flies to the next track, and the show goes on. With Senna gone, the spotlight fell on Damon Hill, son of 2-time champion Graham Hill. Damon suddenly found himself as a championship contender, while Williams was still reeling. How's that for pressure? Your teammate, arguably the greatest driver ever, is wasted, and suddenly you're carrying the hopes of a grieving team. Schumacher won 3 out of the next 4 races. Here's Benetton flying around tracks with suspicious perfection. The FIA eventually found hidden launch control software in their car. Their defense? They pretty much said, "Oh, that's just leftover testing code we forgot to remove." Sure, and I guess Lance Armstrong just forgot he wasn't allowed to juice up before the Tour de France. It's like getting caught with another woman's lipstick on your collar and claiming it's just ketchup stained from lunch. But there's no concrete proof for them using it, so no further action was taken. Then came the German Grand Prix, and Motorsport's version of a barbecue gone horribly wrong. Jos Verstappen pulls in for a routine pit stop when fuel sprays all over his hot Benetton, and whoosh! Instant inferno engulfing car, driver, and crew. Somehow, everyone escapes with minor burns, but the investigation reveals Benetton had removed a mandatory filter from their refueling rig to speed up pit stops. Another oopsie from a team that seemed to have a lot of them. Karma finally caught up at Silverstone. Schumacher overtook Hill during the formation lap, an absolute no-no, and got slapped with a 5-second stop-and-go penalty. But here's where things get spicy. Benetton tells him to ignore it while they argue with the officials. By lap 21, he still hadn't served the penalty, so out comes the black flag. Racing's equivalent of your instinct when you discover she's a stage 5 clinger.
Did you hear what I just said to you? Stage 5 virgin clinger?
Any normal driver would immediately pull out in, but Michael claims he never saw it and keeps hammering around while Benetton plays lawyer in the pit lane. Finally, on lap 27, he serves the original stop-go penalty, finishing second on the road, but the stewards were furious. After the race, they hit Benetton with a $25,000 fine and a stern talking to. But the FIA soon dropped the hammer. Yeah, that $25,000 was peanuts. Now it was disqualification, a $500,000 fine, and a 2-race ban for Schumi. While he watched from the sidelines, Hill took full advantage, grabbing wins at both the Italian and Portuguese Grand Prix. The championship that looked like Schumacher's coronation was now a proper slugfest. The verbal gloves came off too. Michael claimed Hill was not a world-class driver, while Hill, too British and proper for a proper trash-talking session, kept his cool and let his racing do the talking. When Schumacher returned from his ban, he won immediately at Jerez, but Hill wasn't backing down. At a rain-soaked Japanese Grand Prix, with Suzuka transformed into a swimming pool, Hill basically did his best Aquaman impression, slicing through the water while Michael looked like he'd forgotten his floaties. The result? Just one race left in Adelaide. The scoreboard read, Michael, 92 points. Hill, 91 points. It all boiled down to a single point separating these two men. Formula One couldn't have scripted better if they tried. Adelaide, Australia, November 13, 1994. One race, 1 point difference. The atmosphere was insane. Every Formula One fan on the planet knew exactly what was at stake. If Hill finished ahead of Schumacher, the championship was his. If Michael finished ahead of Hill, the trophy was heading to Germany. And if neither finished, Michael would take the crown by that one lonely point. Nigel Mansell snagged pole position. But honestly, nobody gave a flying front wing about him. All eyes were locked on Michael and Hill, starting second and third. The rest of the grid might as well have been racing their grandma's station wagons, for all anyone cared. When those lights went out, Michael launched like a man possessed, grabbing the lead while Hill slotted into second. The pair pulled away from the pack like they had nitrous, while everyone else was pedaling. For 35 laps, they battled it out. But then, on lap 36, everything changed. Michael, the precise, calculating Schumacher, who could thread a needle at 180 miles per hour, made a mistake. His Benetton clipped the wall, throwing the car completely off balance. He wrestled his wounded machine back onto the racing line, but the damage was done. His Benetton was limping like it had spent the night partying with the pit crew. Hill, following close behind, spotted his opportunity. This was it, the championship moment. He darted to the inside line on the next corner, aiming for a gap that would give him the lead and the title. The Williams nose edged alongside Michael's side pod. Then it happened. Michael turned in. Whether he saw Hill or not became the million-dollar question that would spark bar fights for decades. The cars connected, Michael's right rear hitting Hill's left front. The Benetton launched into the air like it was auditioning for a stunt show, crashing down into the barriers with its front wheels hanging uselessly. Michael was out on the spot. Game over. Meanwhile, Hill continued around the corner, but something was obviously wrong. His front left suspension was twisted like a pretzel after a bar fight. As he limped back to the pits, Williams mechanics swarmed the car. The verdict? The suspension was absolutely cooked. Hill was done. In that single moment, with both cars broken and both drivers out, Michael Schumacher became Formula One world champion by a single point. The paddock absolutely exploded. Half called it a racing incident. Two desperate competitors, a championship on the line, contact pretty much inevitable. The other half screamed bloody murder. Michael had deliberately taken Hill out, copying the Senna-Prost blueprint right down to the last detail. Race stewards reviewed the footage and declared it a racing incident. No penalty, no investigation, case closed. Michael was champion. Hill's response? Pure class. While chaos erupted around him, the Brit maintained a level of dignity that made Saints look hot-headed. No accusations, no tantrums, just quiet disappointment, and congratulations to his rival. Michael celebrated becoming Germany's first world champion, but the cloud of controversy followed him to the podium like Cersei's walk of shame in Game of Thrones. Except instead of ringing bells, the fans were whispering "cheater" under their breath. The trophy was his, but so was this asterisk that would follow his name for years to come. Years later, Patrick Head, Williams' technical director, dropped a bombshell. They were 100% sure Michael was guilty of unsportsmanlike conduct. The only reason they didn't protest? They were still processing Senna's death. It's one of those debates that will never really go away. Was it deliberate? Well, that's kind of arguing whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Ho, ho, ho.
What we know for certain, Adelaide 1994 cemented Michael's reputation as a driver who would do absolutely anything to win. From Prost to Senna to Schumacher. When 1 point separates glory from defeat, some drivers race clean, others crash to win. But Schumacher wasn't done shocking the world, not by a long shot. What happens when you take racing's most ruthless winner and drop him in F1's most passionate but struggling team? Ferrari's mechanics may as well have been using actual pasta to plug holes when Schumacher arrived. For crying out loud, how did a team that couldn't get out of its own way transform into an absolute wrecking ball that crushed dreams for 5 straight years? Subscribe now so you don't miss how Schumacher built the most terrifying dynasty F1 has ever witnessed, and the price he paid to create it.